Good evening and welcome to the March 20, 2023 regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to invite Vincent Davis to come up and lead us in the pledge. If everyone can please rise as Vincent's coming up to the podium, that'd be great.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Vincent. Next item on our agenda is reflection, and I would like to call for a brief moment of silence, please. Thank you all very much. Next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. Tonight we have two sets of minutes before us. The first from Monday, March 6th, regular session. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries 5-0. Next is the set of minutes from the work session on Monday, March 13. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And everyone was there. Remote, you're still there. Okay, so that carries 5-0. Thank you all very much. Next on our agenda is appointments. We have a few appointments and reappointments to different committees. What is the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the resolution of the City Council confirming the appointments and reappointments made by you to the Environmental Affairs Committee, Police Advisory Committee, Transportation Committee, and Senior Advisory Committee. To the Senior Advisory Committee, Britta Monaco, for a term expiring in March of 2025, two-year term. Reappointments to the Environmental Affairs Committee, a two-year term for Catherine Ryder, expiring March of 2025. To the Police Advisory Committee, a two-year term for Doug Wagner, for a term expiring March of 2025. To the Transportation Committee, a two-year term for Larry Seeger, a term expiring March of 2025.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, is there anybody whose name we just read who was just appointed? Please stand up, Britta, and introduce yourself very briefly.
Good evening. I'm Britta Monaco. I have been a resident of Gaithersburg for going on 33 years now, and I retired from the city of Gaithersburg 6 months ago, and I just couldn't stay away. So I'm looking forward to working with the Senior Center and for kind of helping the community with some things that I get into those years. So
Thank you
for
very
the
much. Let's
appointment.
give Britta a round of applause. So just a quick pitch, serving on one of our couple dozen or so city boards and commissions and committees is a great way to get involved in the city and contribute in meaningful ways to the business of the city. All of those committees provide recommendations to the mayor and council, which we take very seriously. So, and you get to meet a lot of like-minded people and neighbors who you might not otherwise meet. So I highly recommend it. And end of pitch. We will now go to our presentations. And I'll just note for anybody who just walked in, we have seating currently upstairs in the gallery. Doris is going to lead you to the stairway. As soon as we're done with, I expect there will be some room in here when we're done with police promotions, which is our next item. And I'd like to invite Chief Sroka to join me at the podium, and I'm going to let him take the lead on our promotions.
Good evening. We are pleased tonight to recognize the award recipients of the 2022 Officer of the Year and the Supervisor of the Year. Afterwards, we will recognize 8 officers for their promotional achievement to the ranks of corporal and sergeant. Although all of the department's individual awards are important and honorable, the Officer of the Year and the Supervisor of the Year awards are unique in that they require sustained exemplary performance over an entire year as opposed to other awards that can be received for a single act. At this time, if I could ask Lieutenant Chris Vance to join me at the podium to recognize the Officer of the Year.
Thank you. I have the honor to present the 2022 Officer of the Year for the Gaithersburg Police Department. Officer Nathan Ingles' Officer of the Year nomination cited his outstanding performance and determination to fulfill the mission of the department. Last year, Officer Ingle responded to 842 calls for service. He made 554 traffic stops, made 7 felony criminal arrests, and 14 misdemeanor arrests, with 22 DUI arrests in only an 8-month period. After that 8-month period, he was selected after a competitive process to join the department's street crimes unit. Officer Ingle demonstrated that he was eager to expand his knowledge in training and professional development and seek out additional education within the department. He gained experience with these investigations, became a source of expertise in cell phone search warrants. He received compliments from Montgomery County and Gaithersburg command staff members for his well-articulated warrants. Officer Ingle also demonstrated that he takes the initiative in educating himself, following up on investigations, and assisting others. His positive attitude, thirst for knowledge, outstanding performance reflects well on the department and the city of Gaithersburg. It is for these reasons that Officer Nathan Ingle was named the 2022 Officer of the Year. You guys too. You don't want to shake your hands.
The Supervisor of the Year recognition will now be provided by Lieutenant Sean Eastman.
Thank you, everybody. I'm really honored to be able to present this award. It is a meaningful award. We are here in part to recognize Corporal Michelle Kirk as the 2022 Supervisor of the Year. It has been said that leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality, which is a skill that Corporal Kirk certainly embodies. The nomination leading to this award cited her outstanding dedication to her shift, to the department, and the community, and for her selfless contributions and support. Critically, she contributed 90 hours to field training, helping mentoring new officers while simultaneously setting the standard. Additionally, Corporal Kirk demonstrated an initiative by observing a need for training to address rapidly evolving laws and court decisions and their impact upon police practices, policies, and procedures. She then delivered this essential training to the officers in a highly engaging and digestible manner. Corporal Kirk then volunteered to update these policies and procedures to effectively codify these changes. This is only half the story. She participated in a group that reviewed the department's performance evaluation process. This heavy lift resulted in a much more streamlined evaluation method. Corporal Kirk was also lauded for her selflessness and her willingness to assist other supervisors without hesitation, often on her own time. She displayed self-initiative in other areas as well. Among other statistical contributions, she handled 362 primary calls, wrote 95 reports, made 14 arrests, and spent 90 hours dedicated to collateral duties. Corporal Kirk's can-do attitude provides a positive environment and serves as an aspiration for everybody in her orbit. It is not an accident that she is here for the dual purpose of receiving this award and for being recognized for her promotion to sergeant. In sum, Corporal Kirk demonstrated a strong commitment and dedication to the department and the community that earned her the recognition as the 2022 Supervisor of the Year. I'll let you hold these, unlike Lieutenant Vance holding one. Good job. Thank you.
One of the most enjoyable things that I get to do is to recognize officers for their promotional achievement. And the promotion ceremony is something very special. I've had the real joy of attending academy graduations when we see young men and women just starting their career with this outstanding department. But a promotion ceremony is an indication of what years and years of hard work and commitment lead to. It's admirable that something you set your sights on early and you work towards it continuously. As you take on more and more responsibility, it is an indication of your quality, of your commitment when you go higher up in the police department. That is not a small achievement. It is a profound achievement. And I want to say to all of the family members here, you too played a crucial role in supporting your loved ones as they move forward in this agency. It wasn't easy for you either. Family members often have to inspire us, often have to stand by us. Ultimately, we only get there with the love and the support from our family. So I want to thank all of the family members for all you have done. And I also want to express my deep appreciation to all of the sworn and civilian personnel in this department. You are the ones that are making this department better and stronger all the time. So thank you for all that you do. I'll conclude by saying I think you're being promoted at a moment where this department is getting better and stronger, and where there are new ideas and new approaches to discover, to build a closer relationship with people in every neighborhood. Congratulations on your well-deserved promotions, and we look forward to working with each of you in your new leadership capacities. At this time, if I could ask Lieutenant Leach to join me at the podium, he will call the name of each officer being recognized, along with the name of the family member or other individual pinning the badge. And at that time, we ask that you join us at the podium. Thank you.
Peter Lodisi, promoted to the rank of corporal, and pinning his badge is his wife, Jen.
Congratulations. Quick picture.
Promoted to the rank of corporal, James Doyle, pinning his badge, Sergeant Willie Delgado. Promoted to the rank of corporal, Dan Lane, pinning his badge, Dan Lane.
It's easy on credit. Don't have to worry about me. Same credit card. Don't have to think about anything, you know?
Promoted to the rank of corporal, John Davis, pinning his badge, John Davis Sr. Promoted to the rank of corporal, Chris Welty. Pinning his badge, his wife Wendy.
No speeches.
Promoted to the rank of sergeant, Dan McCarthy. Pinning his badge, his wife Marcy.
Mom and Dad were camera shy. We want to get on there right away.
Promoted to the rank of sergeant, Rico Thompson. Pinning his badge, retired Lieutenant Curtis Petaway.
Who got hiccups? I found it. Okay.
Promoted to the rank of sergeant and supervisor of the year, Michelle Kirk. Pinning her badge, her husband, Sergeant Brandon Day.
That concludes the ceremony. However, we are having a reception back at the station with some food and drinks. I know it's getting late in the night, so I can't be the only one hungry. So we hope that everybody joins us back at the station for some refreshments. So thank you all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it from all of you. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you. We're going to get set for our next presentation. While we're having this transition, I want to invite anybody who's upstairs in the gallery. There's now going to be room for you to sit in the council chamber, so please come down and join us.
Okay, I'll let you go ahead and introduce.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. If she comes, it's all property management.
Okay.
Mike, sit down.
Okay, I'll remind everybody, we are still in session. Please keep any private conversations outside the room. We're getting ready for our next presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Ashman. So we'll continue the celebration and recognition of our amazing staff. Tonight, I have the honor of presenting the winners of the 2022 Employee Recognition Awards for the fourth quarter, which is October 1st through December 31st of 2022. The winners were nominated by their peers, and final selections were made by the Employee Recognition Committee, which is comprised of employees from each city department. I'd like to thank all of the nominators and the members of the Employee Recognition Committee for their efforts to coordinate this important program and help us to recognize and appreciate the extraordinary actions of our extraordinary staff. Our honorees for the fourth quarter of 2022 are Karen Lattis, and for employee of the quarter, and our emergency shelter mobilization team for team of the quarter. Yes. So Karen, I'll tell you a little bit about each of the winners. Karen is the program coordinator for the Gaithersburg Community Museum, and she was nominated for her efforts to promote the observatory and highlight its history. Starting with the Skywatch program and adding others, she now has the observatory open 5 to 6 times a year. She is credited with enhancing the Community Museum's Facebook page and enriching its programming with STEM kids through the National Informal STEM Educator Network and other organizations. She is also recognized for promoting various city departments and museum programming, such as the K-9 Police Unit, the Environmental Team, Youth Services, and others. Karen regularly promotes the museum and observatory at city events, including the Book Festival. I paused there for dramatic effect. And Night Out Against Crime. Currently, Karen is working to find additional funding for the Gaithersburg History Project, an incredible 5-year project to better document the local heritage and contributions of the city's diverse residents. Karen, congratulations.
Give her a round.
Thank you so much. Of course. I'm looking for Tam. Here she is. The Emergency Shelter Mobilization Team consists of members of the Facilities, Administrative Services, and Youth Services teams from the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Culture. They were nominated not just for their work as a dynamic team serving city residents every day, which of course they do, but especially for their dedication in mobilizing to establish the Activity Center at Boer Park as an emergency shelter following the November 16, 2022 explosion and subsequent fire at the Potomac Oaks condominium complex. Within just a few short hours, they coordinated overnight coverage at the Activity Center, relocated or rescheduled programs, and prepared a place for the American Red Cross and the Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services to offer emergency assistance. Additionally, several staff members assisted in using the Robertson Park Youth Center as a satellite dismissal location when the nearby Brown Station Elementary School was evacuated earlier that day. We offer our sincerest thanks to all of the team members who provided emergency assistance to our residents, helped ease some of their hardship, and supported recovery work in the days and weeks following the event. Here, on behalf of the Emergency Shelter Mobilization Team, is Tam Costello. Thank you, Tam. Thanks for being here. And congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations to all of our winners, and thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda is public comment. This is the time that the mayor and council would like to hear from anybody who'd like to speak on any topic other than a public hearing. If you're here to talk about the public hearing, that's coming up next. We're going to get to that next. This is for any other topic. We ask that you state your name and address or neighborhood for the record. Keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. If you have more than 3 minutes worth of material to deliver to us, feel free to use the 3 minutes and then send us the balance in writing. Who would like to be, is there anybody who would like to speak tonight? Come on up, Carl. If anybody else would like to speak under public comments, just line up right behind Carl.
Hello, my name is Carl Van Est. I live at 52 Redding Ridge Drive in Gaithersburg. I'm proud to be a citizen. You guys do a lot of great things. Setting up the shelter was an excellent thing. You don't talk about the good things that happen in the city. You talk about the bad things. I'm going to talk about some of the bad things. I'm sorry. First, I'd like to talk about Ordinance 813. We need to add a shot clock to Ordinance 813. It's about dumps. Those dumps need to be cleaned up within a certain amount of time, 24 hours, 48 hours. Some time amount needs to be added to this ordinance. It's a simple thing. They don't have this kind of ordinance at all at the county level. You guys are leaders. Let's continue to lead here. Next, I'd like to talk about the definition of green space. Green space in section 2480 of your code says that it also includes patios and it includes sidewalks. Well, I'm sorry, but in what world is a patio and a sidewalk green space? We need to fix this definition, especially with the new development work that's going on here. We can't be disingenuous about a term like green space. It's important. We need to make it right. And this is a leadership kind of thing. Please make this change. We need to be candid and honest. Fix the definition. I'd be proud of my community if we could make such a change. Please let me know if we can do this sort of thing. The last thing is West Side Drive. You know, I drive around the city. I'm semi-retired, so that's the dirtiest area that I see. And, you know, it would be great if we could add a trash can there. I see that all the time. Salt dumps are a source of pollution. Fixing the time clock is an important thing. You can help attack this. Green space is disingenuously defined in your code. You can fix this. You can set an example for the community, one that's based on trust, honesty, and respect. And lastly, garbage is a public safety issue, and public safety is job number one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl. Do we have anybody else here in the room who wants to speak under public comments? Like I said, we're going to get to the public hearing next. Come on up. Yeah. David, please.
Good evening. David Mullins, Gateway Apartments. I'm looking forward to maybe chiming in later, but a general thing I wanted to get in is that last time I was here, I remember there was something about the Lake Forest project, and daylighting came up, daylighting of streams, and the response I think from city staff was on par with like the applicant is going to maybe not be a part of this project if daylighting comes up further. It was kind of jarring, and then I couldn't help but notice that there was some correspondence after that meeting about daylighting in general. Just wanted to throw in from the public perspective, I'm pretty ignorant about the whole thing. I do Googling every time it comes up here, but I just didn't know if maybe, I just wanted to throw that in case y'all wanted to put some more public information out there about kind of like an objective general, what that's about. That was it.
Great, thank you.
All right.
I will note to people who are interested in following the Lake Forest Mall redevelopment project, we do have a project page on our website where we do, I imagine that, because we did see a memo which included some response from the applicant about the daylighting question. Is that, I'm expecting that's posted on the project page? We'll have to check that out.
I'll double check. but
Okay,
it should
we'll double
be.
check. It should be. All the latest information should be on that page. So, do we have anybody else who'd like to speak under public comments? I'm going to check with our Zoom group too. I see some people on Zoom. Tech team, if you can play the Zoom instructional video, that would be great. I see some new names up here.
Good evening. If you've connected to the meeting tonight via Zoom and you're on a desktop or a laptop and you wish to make a public comment, we can't currently see or hear you. What you need to do, please, is wiggle your mouse around and look towards the bottom center of your screen. You should see a raise hand button. Go ahead and click on that now for us, please. Alternatively, if you've connected in via telephone, you can press *9.
Thank you, tech team. So I see one hand up so far in the Zoom room, so I'm going to call on Leon Gerskovich. Leon, once you unmute, just state your name, address, or neighborhood and go right ahead.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, esteemed council members. My name is Leon Gershkovich, and I live at the Shady Grove Village community for over 20 years. And I do vote. This is my first time speaking to you because I'm concerned. I do not want that our city of Gaithersburg becomes a city of urban sprawl rather than city of trees, as our logo would say. I have seen quite a change since I moved here. You know, the Crown being built, lifetime retirement home instead of the low-impact office space that it was supposed to be. So now it's a new development project at the former Night Missile site.
Oh, wait, Leon, hold on just a minute. I didn't realize your testimony is about that.
It is about that.
We're gonna then.
Do you want to hold on?
Yeah, let me come back to you because we haven't started that public hearing yet.
Okay.
We're gonna do that next. Thank you, appreciate it. Is there anybody else on Zoom who'd like to speak under public comments? If so, use the Zoom raise hand button. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. So we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is our public hearing, and appreciate everyone's patience. We're going to get that started right now. Kirk Eby is going to lead us in the presentation, and I'd like to invite the Planning Commission to join us up here at the dais.
Oh, right. I can't look up what I was looking up.
All yours, Kirk. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council and Planning Commissioners. This is a joint public hearing on sketch plan SK-9497-2023 for the Nike site launch property, shown here on this aerial photo. The sketch plan proposes to construct a new residential multifamily community on the former Nike missile launch site with a maximum of 380 dwelling units. The hearing was advertised on March 2nd and March 9th, 2023 in the Washington Post and was posted on the city's website beginning on February 23rd, 2023. Signs were posted on the property and notifications were sent to adjacent property owners within 200 feet. There are currently 27 exhibits in the record. The individual exhibits may be reviewed at City Hall during regular business hours or on the city's website. Any objections to the receipt of any exhibit should be noted prior to the closing of the record. Otherwise, they will be deemed received into evidence. Thank you. I will now turn it over to the applicant's team, Mr. Phil Hummel and Mr. Ross Ostrander, to begin their presentation, and give me a second to bring that up for them.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members, and Mr. Chair and commissioners. My name is Philip Hummel. I'm with the law firm of Miles and Stockbridge. Our firm is land use counsel to Pleasance Development applicant in this case. With me at the...
If you could, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. If everyone could please speak up. And again, this is I'm glad for that feedback, but I'd ask that everyone please just sit quietly and listen, and everyone's going to get a chance to speak when we go to public comments.
Is this better?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So let me start over for the whole crowd. My name is Philip Hummel. I'm with the law firm of Miles and Stockbridge. Our firm is land use counsel to the applicant, in this case, Pleasance Development. With me at the table to my right is Ross Ostrander, Vice President of Multifamily Operations for Pleasant. Also with us tonight is Clark Wagner, Vice President of Land Acquisition and Entitlement for Pleasance, and Nick Speech, Project Engineer with Buller Engineering. So what you see on the screen before you is a general vicinity map. The property is outlined in red. It is addressed as 770 Muddy Branch Road. It contains approximately 14 acres. To the north, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but to the north is the Timberbrook community, which is improved with multifamily residential uses. To the south and to the west is the Lakelands Ridge community with multifamily and single-family detached residential units. To the east, across Muddy Branch Road, is the Shady Grove Village community. That's single-family attached residential uses, townhouses. And to the south here is the Muddy Branch Shopping Center, contains approximately 111,000 square feet, with restaurants, personal services, banks, a giant grocery, and a county liquor store. The property is also in close proximity to Fields Road Elementary School up here, and Diamondback Drive over here provides convenient access to Sam Ike Highway and I-270. So for the purposes of tonight, the history for this property begins back in 1956, which is when it became a U.S. Army Nike missile launch site, also known as the W-92 facility, between 1956 and 1974. And during that time period, the property was annexed into the city boundaries in 1967. After the Nike missile project was decommissioned, starting in 1975, the property was used by NIST as a storage, research, and testing annex until 2012. Between 2012 and 2022, the property was vacated by the U.S. federal government. And in January 2022, applicant Pleasance acquired the property via auction from the U.S. government. Later that year, in August 2022, the HDC, the Historic District Commission, directs the city manager to issue a demolition permit for structures on the site that were 50 years or older. There were a number of newer structures on the site. HDC review wasn't necessary to demolish those, but for the older buildings it was. The HDC concluded that the site did not meet the criteria for historic or architectural significance, and the demolition permit was issued on October 5th, 2022. Thereafter, in 2023, beginning of 2023, to be proactive, the applicant Pleasance started meeting with the community. They had 6 different meetings with 3 different HOAs. That's the Lakelands Ridge HOA, the Timberbrook HOA, and the Shady Grove Village 2 HOA. Shortly thereafter, the applicant then filed a sketch plan with the city. So what you see on the screen now is the current zoning of the property, MXD, mixed-use development. It's also worth noting that on all sides, the property touches MXD zone property on all sides. Just to give some background, the development review process in the MXD zone is a multi-phase process. We're here tonight at the very first stage, which is a joint public hearing on the sketch plan. After that, there'll be a planning commission recommendation and a decision by the mayor and council. Thereafter, there'll be a schematic development plan review, and then a final site plan for review by the Planning Commission. I'll now turn it over to Ross to go over some aerial images of the property to give you some more perspective.
Great, thank you, Phil. These images were taken last summer, and this one shows the view to the west. We're in this image over top of the property, looking to the west, and you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen and to the top the surrounding Lakelands Ridge community, including the multifamily condominium buildings to the west and the single-family detached buildings to the south. These are the backs of some of the single-family detached residential properties to the south in the Lakelands Ridge community, and that's obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but it's taken from our side of the fence looking through. This is another aerial from last summer, looking south along Muddy Branch Road. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see a little bit of Shady Grove Village 2, Muddy Branch Road extending south, and the Muddy Branch Square Shopping Center. This is another view from inside the property looking to the south at the Lakelands Ridge single families. And that is a view from inside the property looking due south into the Muddy Branch Square Shopping Center.
Great, thank you, Ross. So we also just wanted to go into some detail on the community outreach that Pleasance has done. Again, we held 6 meetings with 3 HOA for the surrounding communities in 2022 prior to filing the sketch plan application. And actually, just recently, Pleasance also met on site with the Lakelands Ridge HOA, I believe, after filing the sketch plan. So what was heard during those meetings? You have just a couple bullets there summarizing the feedback. First is the importance of compatibility. And that can be seen in many different ways. The proposed use, the proposed density, ensuring there are sufficient setbacks between the new development and the existing development, as well as landscape buffers between new and existing development. We also heard about interest in pedestrian enhancements where appropriate, like a new pedestrian connection directly to the south to the Muddy Branch Square Shopping Center. We also heard very clearly from representatives of Lakelands Ridge that they did not want to have direct connections to the south to their property. We also heard some interest about new crosswalks. There are also comments and concerns about anticipated impact on public facilities like schools and transportations, as well as impact from construction activity like noise and odors. So our team took that feedback to heart and reflected that feedback into the proposed sketch plan that you see tonight. To further the goal of compatibility, the sketch plan proposes entirely multifamily residential uses. There's no retail associated here, 100% multifamily project with a density of up to 380 units, and I would just make it clear that that's a maximum. And as we move forward in the development review process, that number may come down, but right now it's a maximum of 380, so it could be less than that, but right now it's a proposed maximum. Same thing with building heights, a proposed maximum of 5 stories. But as we go through the process, that may change. It may be less than 5 stories, but right now we're proposing to set a framework as up to 5 stories. And density with roughly 28 units per acre, which we believe is consistent with surrounding development and significantly less than what you would see at Crown Farm, downtown Crown, or at Kentlands. The community feedback is also reflected in the locations of the multifamily buildings on the sketch plan. We did take effort to include them towards the interior of the site and along Muddy Branch Road to accommodate integration of green buffers and away from existing development. The green area will be a minimum of 40% of the total area of the subject property, with opportunities for both passive and active recreation. That includes things like gathering areas, open lawns, sports courts, and the like. And as far as pedestrian connections, we are proposing a new pedestrian connection to the south, to the Muddy Branch Square Shopping Center, and to the south side of School Drive. We think it's important to promote walkability This is a mixed-use zoned area. We want to encourage walkability and increase the horizontal mix of uses in the surrounding area. So here's the sketch plan drawing itself. Just a few highlights. You see 4 blocks, A, B, C, and D. If you add up the proposed number of units on each block, it comes up to a maximum of 380, as identified earlier. And on all blocks, there's a maximum height proposed of up to 5 stories. The sketch plan does call out a pedestrian connection to the south with the Muddy Branch Square Shopping Center, as well as to the north to the south side of School Drive. There's also a note, which is kind of hard to see here, but General Note 6 specifically says no pedestrian connection will be provided between this project and the adjacent Lakelands Ridge neighborhood. The general notes also notes, General Note 7 here, that the project will include a minimum of 40% green area, and this star that you see here is a potential Nike missile commemorative feature. The details of that are still being worked out, but we did feel it was important to commemorate the prior use of the property. As far as circulation goes, you see a main spine roadway that leads to existing School Drive and the Muddy Branch Road intersection right there. So we think that this project does have many benefits to the city. New housing, we've been hearing a lot that there's a significant need for new housing in the county and in the city. This redevelopment specifically will provide much new needed market rate multifamily housing, as well as 15% MPDUs, moderately priced dwelling units, west of I-270, which we think is very important. The sketch plan proposes redevelopment that we believe is compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods, both in use, the building type, and the density. And we believe that we're offering appropriate connections to abutting properties for pedestrian circulation. Very importantly, the new development will replace existing vacant, dilapidated, and unsafe structures. It's a matter of public safety to redevelop this site. And we will also provide appropriate commemoration of the property's past use as a Nike missile launch site. And some other things that aren't here on the list that we do think are worth mentioning. The addition of stormwater management. This is on a site where no stormwater management exists today. And the property will also be convenient to commercial and employment uses at NIST, AstraZeneca, and the developing Great Seneca Science Corridor, as well as retail at Downtown Crown. So that concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions that the panel may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. Appreciate the presentation. I'm going to open it up to Council and Planning Commission, see who wants to ask the first questions or make comments before we go to the public. And if I don't see any takers, then Phil.
I'll be the first one up here. Just so I'm clear, looking at the site plan, you've got sketch level drive aisle access. There's no mention of parking. Am I correct in assuming that parking will be below the units, given the density on the site and the amount of green area, that it'll be structured parking of some sort, or are you envisioning surface lots?
I believe it's surface parking, but I'll ask Ross to confirm.
It's planned to be a surface parked project.
So the blocks that are development blocks are both building and parking?
They are.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's why they're so big on the page.
So I think that's important to understand from a footprint and a setback standpoint, that those are not building lines, those are building and parking. Thanks.
Thank you.
Neil, and then Rob.
So I'm curious about one thing. You've made the point multiple times that there will not be a pedestrian connection to the Lakelands Ridge community. Why is that?
We're just honoring the feedback that we've received from the Lakelands Ridge community. We wanted to respect their preferences at this point. I'll also see if Ross has anything else he'd like to add.
I'll chime in there. It's physically impossible. On the west side, there's a giant retaining wall. So it's just not possible to connect there by foot traffic. And if you can go back to the aerial photograph there, keep going, a couple more. There you go. On the left-hand side of that screen, you can see the proximity of the single-family homes on the southern border there. They're very close together. It's not appropriate to have foot traffic through there.
Okay, makes sense. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rob Wu.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. Just a question. When this property, the notion of this property first came available to the city, there was some discussion about further site remediation. I didn't see anything mentioned in the memos about that. And I was wondering if there was anything, since you acquired the property, that's required to be completed in order to make this residential,
Yes,
available
yes.
for residential uses.
We made application last year into the Maryland Department of the Environment's voluntary cleanup program. And we were accepted into the program and came up with a remedial action plan that was approved by MDE. And we are in the process, we've actually just recently completed that. It was fairly minimal, and we're going through the process now of documenting all of that. It'll go back to MDE for their final blessing.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, go ahead. And I'll remind everyone, please silence any devices that you have that make any kind of noise. Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned the maximum of 5 stories, and just looking at the aerial, is there any topography change on the site that would influence, what 5 stories looks like at one end of the property versus the other?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Is there a hill? So basically, is 5 stories at the bottom of the hill versus 5 stories?
The site is, because it was a launch site, it's generally the top of a hill. And there is some topography that it falls on. I'm looking over here at the screen so I can give an accurate depiction. It does kind of fall off at the periphery of the site in almost every direction. So does that answer the question?
Okay, so basically at SDP, we would need to, see how the 5 stories, if we get to that point, would be looking. So what I want to make sure is that, we don't have a 5-story, at the top of the hill and the bottom of the hill, and then all of a sudden for one property or one area of the property, it's seeming much, much larger, I guess is the concern.
Understood.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we go to the public? Not seeing any? Okay. Well, this is the time the mayor and council and the planning commission would like to hear from anybody in the public who'd like to speak on this. Please, I see your hand. Yeah, you come up first. Everyone, please line up behind
the lawyer.
The lawyer. and again, we ask that you state your name, address, or neighborhood, and keep your comments no more than 3 minutes. And if you have more than 3 minutes, we're delighted to take the rest in writing. Go right ahead.
For the record, it pains me that I'm limited to 3 minutes, just so you know. Fortunately, we did submit something in writing. My name is Ursula Burgess. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Reese Broom, located in Tysons and Bethesda. On March 9th, we sent you all something in writing that we sent over to Mr. Ostrander, indicating the concerns for Lakeland Ridge Homeowners Association. If I could take a moment, if anyone in the audience who's from Lakeland's Ridge or one of the condos, if you could raise your hand. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
I'm not billing them by person, so they're saving money that way. They're obviously very concerned about this. We've been involved with the developer, and to the developer's credit, they walked the property on March 15th. We received an email back with some commitments on some of the concerns that we had as a community. You see that we're literally right on top of each other, especially that one row of homes. And so we have significant concerns, not only about the construction and how that's going to impact the homes, the proximity, obviously hearing that all the time is going to be akin to, I'm sure, having a pickleball court in your backyard. There's going to be potentially worried about structural impact on association structures. We do have a retaining wall that we're concerned about. We want to make sure that nothing comes from that. Retaining walls are very expensive. If there's damage to them, to have them fixed. I believe the developers agreed that that's something they're going to help us with. We obviously want barriers between the communities to make sure that we don't have people walking through the communities and cutting through, and they've agreed to that. And obviously we want to mitigate any long-term impact of cars cutting through. At this point, what I see in the sketch plan is nothing that indicates that a vehicle should be driving through Lakelands to get into there, and we'd like to keep it that way. That's obviously a concern for us. Obviously, it's impactful. We have a huge audience here today. I do really appreciate the work that they've done to talk to my clients. My hope is they're not all going to get up and take 3 minutes of your time today. And instead, we did circulate with them what we have provided to you all. We are committed to working with the developer and moving forward and continuing to have these conversations. So in hopes that we're all here again and we're in support of what they're doing, and that we can speak to that for you all together. So just want to give our 2 cents on that. I thank you all. I hope you all took the time to read what we sent you. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, come on up.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Michael Dennis. I'm President, Board of Directors of Timberbrook Condominium, 137 Timberbrook Lane, Gaithersburg. Our property abuts 770 Muddy Branch Road on the north side. We would like to compliment Muddy Branch Investments, LLC, for their efforts to inform and involve our neighboring Timberbrook condominium community and all of the early planning and development aspects for the property at 770 Muddy Branch Road. They have been informative, transparent, and courteous. Following the advice of the famous architects and planners Mies van der Rohe and Peter Behrens, we believe and advocate that less is more in the context of the sketch plan for this development. Our Timberbrook community, which is constructed between 1995 and 1998, has 12 buildings, 168 units, and a little over 300 parking spaces. The sketch plan for 770 Muddy Branch Road proposes 380 units at over 500 parking spaces right next door to us, which means the addition of 400 to 500 more people and 500 more vehicles. Public transit is extremely limited, so we presume every resident of the new development will probably have a vehicle. The access road to the Muddy Branch Investments community opens onto School Drive directly opposite the entrance to Timberbrook Condominium. The section of School Drive in question here is maintained by the City of Gaithersburg, which has done nothing to maintain it since at least 1998, to my knowledge. So it's full of potholes and need to be completely reconstructed and redesigned to accommodate an additional 500 vehicles. Muddy Branch Investment staff has informed us that they have obtained interim approval from Montgomery County DOT and Gaithersburg City to install a traffic light at the intersection of School Drive and Muddy Branch Road once the development of the sketch plan is completed. While the traffic light would be helpful, it may not materially improve the use of the intersection by 500 additional vehicles, and the access from Timberbrook Lane to Muddy Branch Road would be restricted by the sheer number of vehicles added by the new proposed development. We believe a community with a smaller footprint would be a better neighbor. The sketch plan proposes 5-story buildings, but we would suggest constructing buildings of only maybe 3 to 4 stories at 770 Muddy Branch Road. The condominium buildings at the neighboring Timberbrook and Lakelands Ridge buildings communities are 3 to 4 stories high. And in fact, there are no buildings on any section of Muddy Branch Road from West Diamond to Route 28 which exceed 3 stories in height. The sketch plan at issue would create buildings on an elevation that would tower above Timberbrook and Lakelands communities and Muddy Branch Road. We would have preferred a park or a permanent conservation easement, of course, but once the property was sold, we hoped to see a development with as small and reasonable a footprint in the environment as possible, while still recognizing the developer's right to profit from the investment. Thank you very much, and I have a copy of this presentation for you.
Oh, great. Stand with the doors. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello. My name's David Batlin. I live at 210 Shadow Glen Court in Gaithersburg, Maryland. As an owner of a home that borders the former NIST property and will be directly affected by the proposed development, I urge the city and the developer to seriously address the issues raised in the March 9th, 2023 HOA letter to Muddy Branch Investments. They are valid and deserve to be addressed with the utmost care and consideration. A key concern for the Lakelands Ridge community is the potential for cut-through pedestrian traffic. Future residents of the apartment buildings will undoubtedly attempt to seek access to the Muddy Branch Shopping Center via the most direct route possible. In this case, without some type of barrier, the most direct route will be to cut through the yards of the single-family homes. This will not be acceptable. Fortunately, the developer is engaged with the community and placed the following note on the sketch plan. No direct pedestrian connection will be provided between this project and the adjacent Lakelands Ridge neighborhood. The developer is already planning to provide access to the shopping center directly from his property. No further access is necessary. Any attempt to connect through Lakelands Ridge will be problematic. as it will place the safety and security of the Lakelands Ridge homeowners at risk. Additionally, the single-family homeowners are concerned about the positioning of their homes on their lots and the lack of space for outdoor activities. As originally approved by the city, rear yards with a depth of as little as 8 feet exist in the community. It is imperative that the final development plans account for the lack of backyards and provide homeowners with usable outdoor space. To this end, I suggest that the approved development plan ensures that no above-ground development, including landscaping, be allowed within 15 feet of the homeowner's rear property lines. Homeowners should also receive limited rights to utilize that space as if it were their own. In a few specific cases where homeowners have less than 15-foot rear yards, I ask that the developer consider conveying small parcels of properties to these homeowners at no cost. While this may require the transfer of less than 600 square feet of land, it would have an outsized impact on the livability of the affected homes. This new development provides a unique opportunity to correct the harmful impacts of the original positioning of the homes, and it would be a shame not to take advantage of this opportunity. I am pleased to say that the developer has thus far acted with great professionalism and has shown a willingness to work with the community. However, I urge them to continue this dialogue and to convert discussions into actions.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Just if you have more, just submit it to us in writing, please. Okay. Thank you. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Hey, my name is David Woodward. I live at 20202 Leah Pond Place, Montgomery Village Avenue, 20886. And I'll try and keep it brief. I wish I'd prepared better for this. But I'm very, very, very concerned about climate change. And I believe that the only real way to address that pragmatically is not to save a tree here or there, but is to build very dense housing and to try and incentivize people to stop driving. And you really couldn't pick a better location for something like that than the proposed project. I mean, you know, people could walk to the grocery store, they could bike to NIST, they could bike to Rio in 10 minutes. I mean, that, you know, places like that don't exist very much in America. And so, you know, I just ask the council to prioritize, you know, the potentially hundreds of millions of lives that are at stake with climate change over, you know, people's lawns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Andrew Loeb. I live at 201 High Gables, and we've been there for 12 years. The Lakeland Ridge development was designed with two methods of getting in, one from Great Seneca and one from Muddy Branch. The plans were changed so that the Muddy Branch access is no longer available to vehicles. There is only one way cars can get in or out of Lakeland's Ridge, and that is onto Muddy Branch. And that is also the, Great Seneca.
Hold on. Excuse me. I appreciate the correction, everyone. But again, I want everyone to just listen with respect to every speaker, agree or disagree, even if we understand the geography of the area. Thank you. Go right ahead.
I appreciate the correction. We have many residents who actually take the bus to get to work or other activities, and if they are heading towards the metro, they have to cross Great Seneca. There is no traffic light at Great Seneca. There is not a marked pedestrian crossing at Great Seneca. Within the past 5 years, we have had 7 or 8 traffic accidents at that intersection. And it follows a curve, so it is very difficult for sightlines. With the new development, we could have up to 500 cars additional coming along Great Seneca twice a day. And when I did clockings of cars many years ago, we were having 3,000 cars an hour during rush hour. The State Highway Administration said they can't put in a traffic light because they can't get federal funding because there aren't enough cars coming out of Lakeland's Ridge. It looks like we have to wait until there are 2, 3, or 4 traffic deaths before they will move, unless this council pushes them to provide safety for pedestrians and for cars turning into and out of the community. This is all peripheral to the plan being submitted, but I leave it to you to carry forward with this suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm David Worcester, also from Timberbrook. I'd like to speak certainly to support what Michael Dennis said about our impressions of this project. I wanted to give some details on one. The site is on a hill. Muddy Branch Road continues that hill in both directions. Despite global warming, during the last 10 winters, we've had a pretty snowy time. And when that happens, the Timberbrook Lane that goes down to Timberbrook from School Drive gets covered with snow, and although cars can get in, some of them have trouble getting out. That's resulted in many cases where only individual shoveling is able to manage things before the contractors come in to handle the street. So right opposite Timberbrook Lane is the entrance to the housing that's in question here. It also goes further up a hill. It's even further up a hill and seems to me steeper than that to Timberbrook. And so when we get snows, if contractors can't get there quickly to keep it clear, cars aren't going to be able to get up there. And where are they going to go once they get off Muddy Branch Road? Their only choice is to go down into Timberbrook. That's why I think some very careful thinking about the project is needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Come on up.
I wrote nothing down, but
That's okay.
Everyone's inspired me. I hadn't planned on talking about this. My name is Stephanie Fitz. I live in the single-family homes. The developer has been very communicative, which is great. The discussion on capacity is terrifying because of the lack of pedestrian safety. My daughter, who's now a senior, was introduced to the area by the death of one of her friend's mothers crossing Muddy Branch. Since then, there is now a lit crosswalk. However, my children and everyone's children that lives in the area, when we attempt to cross Muddy Branch, it's death-defying. The idea of having 500 more cars on that road with the current traffic infrastructure is, I can't even imagine it. We have to do walking school bus to try to cross that intersection. The kids cannot walk to school even though it's only about a 7-minute walk, because the intersection crossing around Giant to try to cross Muddy Branch at any of the intersections, the kids are going to get clipped. So what I would like to advocate for strongly is if another communities go in before there is another traffic fatality, to have a really good look at pedestrian safety, especially if we're imagining this as a walking community and we're touting the fact people can get to Giant and the kids are going to cross the street to try to get to Fields Road School. And that is super, super dangerous. In addition to that, when we try to leave our street, what the gentleman before was talking about is no joke. In order to pull your car out, you have to pull into the crosswalk. I have 2 learners. It's horrifying. I'm teaching my children to drive now. I have to teach them to pull into the crosswalk in order to see the traffic, in order to attempt to turn right. And that is really poorly constructed. Because if they don't pull into the crosswalk, as they're told by the, Greg's driving school, they're going to hit a bicyclist because you literally can't see them coming. I'd like to challenge anyone here to literally just try to drive out of our neighborhood. You can't. And so what I would love to request is for City of Gaithersburg, before you put more cars on the road and more kids trying to cross that intersection, trying to get to Green Park, walk it yourselves sometime around 4 to 7 o'clock in the afternoon and see how safe you feel. So thank you very much. This was completely unplanned, but hearing about capacity, yeah.
Do we have any other speakers in the room? I know there's a couple on Zoom. Please.
My name is George Quinn. I work at NAST. I'd like to compliment the developer, Ross and Pleasantville. You graciously allowed some of us volunteers to harvest some Nike-era artifacts from the site. They have been all taken up to the site BA 79 north of Interstate 70 near Sykesville, and they are in the process of being used for the restoration of that site. So I want to thank the developer for having historical assistance in recovering some items.
Thank you. Do we have any other people who'd like to testify on this topic in the room? Okay, we're going to go to Zoom. And tech team, if you could bring back up Leon. Leon, thanks for your patience. Go ahead and please state your name and address one more time and go right ahead.
Sure. Thank you so much, and apologies for jumping in earlier.
Not at all. Not at all. Go right ahead.
My name is Leon Djokovic, and I live at the Shady Grove Village community for over 20 years. So I wanted to speak to you a little bit about the Nike Mesa site development. Just to start, I just want to be clear that I'm not against any development, but at this point I'm against all the high occupancy development that brings traffic, pollution, crowded spaces with no real infrastructure to support it. When the Crown developers were selling their idea in the first place, I remember it clearly. They were stating, oh, wonderful things, like we're gonna have a light rail going to the Shady Grove Metro Station. We're gonna have the rapid bus transportation to the Shady Grove Metro Station. And guess what? None of that thing happened, right? So the only thing that we are left with lots of more cars. And so this project proposes the construction of 4 multi-story buildings with up to 380 units. And as we already heard a couple of times already, there is up to 400 cars. Just imagine, right? What kind of significant impact would have on daily lives of all of those people who are living around that area. So I urge you to consider changing this permit from high to medium or low occupancy development. And here are the reasons why, okay? First and foremost, Multi Branch will become another traffic nightmare, with people trying to reach from that school drive towards the Diamondback and on Sam Inc. to 270 or 370. And even now in the morning, the Diamondback Drive is packed. It's like, up to the Story Drive and beyond. So just imagine 400 more cars getting on that road. So then the second thing is the project is proposing new intersection on the school drive. I think that proposal should be reconsidered or modified to elevate additional traffic. We recently, I don't know if you remember, we recently had 2 deaths, pedestrian fatalities right next to the school on the school drive. I really don't think that area is really safe with additional traffic. And also, just putting another traffic light about 940 feet from Diamondback could create additional backup on the Diamondback and on the Muddy Branch. So there needs to be really consideration put into what kind of support do we have infrastructure-wise to build such a high development in that space. We need more green space for park and trees, safer walking and biking spaces, not more high occupancy development, in my opinion. So we are really hoping that our neighborhood remains safe, livable, and walkable space. And I understand that we need to have additional housing for low-income residents as well, but we can do all of that without generating that high occupancy area. So please do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else on Zoom who'd like to speak? Just use the raise hand function, and I will call on you. Not seeing anybody. Going once, going twice. Okay. First off, I want to thank everyone who testified and everyone who came out here. Appreciate all of the feedback, and And frankly, I always appreciate constructive participation in city business. Really, I feel like that's the Gaithersburg way, and I want to thank you all for that. So I want to go to, before I go to the Mayor and Council and Planning Commission for additional questions or comments, I wanted to give Ross a chance, or Phil, if there's anything that you've heard tonight that you'd like to respond to now, or if you'd like to submit some feedback in writing to us later. I don't want to put you on the spot, but please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we'll do both. I'll just start really quickly. I also want to thank people for coming out tonight. I respect that people feel passionately about where they live in their communities. Pleasance does take the outreach very seriously. We appreciate folks acknowledging that there has been significant outreach. We want to continue that, keep those lines of communication open. I've also heard a number of concerns about adequate infrastructure. When we get to the SDP phase, there will be review under the city's adequate public facilities ordinance that will look at things like school capacity, transportation. The applicant will prepare a detailed traffic impact analysis that will be reviewed by city staff. So that will be a part of the next phase. Compatibility is another issue that we take very seriously. We do think that both the use and the proposed intensity here is compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. And to echo some of the comments, we do want to encourage those connections with commercial uses, both physically at the Muddy Branch Square Shopping Center and nearby employment and commercial uses. I've also heard some comments about the intersection of Muddy Branch and School Drive. That will be something that will be looked at very closely at the SDP phase with our traffic study. But in an attempt to be proactive, we did take an initial look at it. Our traffic engineer has advised the applicant team that under current conditions, without any development, that a traffic signal is not warranted. But with redevelopment of the site, with sufficient density, a traffic signal would be warranted. It's also important to note that Muddy Branch Road is a county road, not a city road. So any traffic signal would need to be reviewed and permitted by Montgomery County DOT. They have, I believe, reviewed our preliminary analysis and concur that with sufficient development there, a traffic light would be warranted. We will continue that coordination during the SDP phase as part of the APF review. I think I'll turn it to Ross, see if there's anything you want to add.
I would just wanted to add, because you're working, off the cuff here, the county's response regarding the traffic light at Muddy Branch and School Drive would also include pedestrian improvements. I wanted to make sure that that was clear, because that is a big issue.
Great. Any further questions up here? Ryan?
I just wanted to clarify, since we've got so many members of the public here tonight, for those who weren't aware yet or haven't gotten that far in their research, the schematic development phase, which is being referenced tonight, will have its own separate public hearing with more opportunity for input from the public when there is a more detailed plan in place, should the sketch plan be approved and move forward. I did just have a quick question. I'm looking at the map, and it seems, from what I recall and from what I see on the map, Shadow Glen Court is a city road, and High Gables Drive is, I don't know if it's a city road or a private road. Private road. And then Timberbrook Lane, I don't know if you can clarify that as well.
That's a private.
Hold on.
I appreciate we're talking to staff at this moment. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Timberbrook Lane is private, so that's maintained by the Condominium Association.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Part of High Gables Drive is public road, so maintained by the city, up to about, I think it's a little bit past Shadow Glen Court where the right-of-way is.
Okay.
And then all of Shadow Glen Court is public road, so maintained by the city. And the rest of High Gables Drive, beyond that right-of-way area, would be private and maintained by the HOA.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And thanks for clarifying the process, too. I was thinking about that as well. Neil, go right ahead.
Yeah, just to add on to the clarification of the process, at this sketch plan stage where we are today, the idea is to set the maximum of what can happen, but then the details and the final decisions are made at a later stage if it gets to that point. I also wanted to mention, since pedestrian safety came up, I didn't see any of you in the room last week. No great surprise, but we had a work session on pedestrian safety improvements throughout the city. There's a consulting firm. They specifically focused on some of the more challenging intersections in the city, but have made a number of suggestions to us on ways to improve pedestrian safety at intersections. It's something that we take very seriously, and that I don't live far from you. I'm in Kentlands. I bicycle around your neighborhood all the time. I'm well aware of the challenges particularly of Great Seneca Highway and Muddy Branch. Those are areas that our transportation committee has focused on as well. So we take those concerns very seriously, and we'll address them as we go forward, regardless of what happens with this.
Thanks, Neil. John Bauer.
All right, so to back up a bit, given that this is in the MXD zone, or it's zoned MXD, and it's adjacent to Lakeland's Ridge, and that's zoned MXD as well, just to kind of be clear, I think the vision all along in an MXD zone is that there's multiple ways to for connectivity, both vehicular, pedestrian, wildlife, all of that. And as such, that means that things like road networks and sidewalk networks, generally speaking, in this context of an MXD zone, have more than one way in and out, or more than one way to connect to everything else around it. For obvious reasons. I mean, there's some safety issues, like how do you get a fire truck in there if the main entrance is blocked by an accident or something? I mean, that's terrible to say, but I mean, there are ways to describe this in dramatic ways, just to make the point. So one of the things I think we're going to have to think very seriously about is not having that geometry in place because the connectivity has been severed and the plans haven't been aligned with adjacent development. What the compensation is at the one intersection we do have, and it's not a casual thing to say, well, you know, we'll look at it SDP with a traffic study. That's right. That's the technical, that's the legal approach. But the reality is we have to look very seriously at what happens there for traffic movement, the geometry, not necessarily numbers, although that's important. We need to have things move through there, and what sorts of ways they can move through there in unconventional ways if necessary. You know, what happens if, right? Or what do you do when traffic does back up because a light ends up going in there and the cycle times are 3 minutes and you've got people leaving both neighborhoods. And I don't have an answer per se, but I want to be very careful when I say, well, we'll just deal with that at SDP. I think there's a very real need to respect and understand that, at least at a conceptual level, as early as possible, so that even the upset numbers for maxes on this site are not unreasonable given those kinds of limitations and constraints. I mean, it's a reality. I mean, that's how the site was kind of handed over to you. So that a traditional or a typical or historically MXD site that was this big with this proximity to a public or to a commercial area should somehow support 380 units, if that's what you think is the right answer, may not be true, given this is not an ordinary site in an ordinary MXD condition. And I think we have to just acknowledge it, talk about it, make sure that's part of this decision up front. We're going to come to you guys with a recommendation, obviously, when we get through our own discussion. But our record is going to be open presumably for another few weeks, a couple weeks, I forget what it is, but we'll get to that in a minute. And I think it'd be very appropriate to at least get some concept on how this is going to really happen at School Drive, Timberbrook, whatever this road becomes, you know, coming into this neighborhood, how all that really is knitted together. And in some way respects all of these other problems that already exist there, never mind the additional X number of cars that will end up being pushed through there, and X number of people we want to encourage to walk through there, right? I mean, we don't want this to be a car-based neighborhood. We want it to be a walkable and connected community. And I just haven't heard enough about that. And I know we're setting some of these numbers and that's all we're doing, but I really need to hear more about that and a little bit more respect for the fact that that's a very unique constraint on this site. So that's my input for now.
Okay. I hope the applicant has heard that loud and clear.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Phil. Jim, and then Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to kind of add my nodding to Chairman Bauer on that, because I was trying to visualize that as well, as who gets the right of way as that light changes, and how is that flow going to work? And so yeah, I think the sooner we can understand that, the better. I also think it's important to, since I think everybody's in agreement that there won't be any kind of vehicle or pedestrian connectivity to the neighborhood to the south. And I know that the HOA submitted a letter that included maintaining the chain link fence, but in Saybrook, we ended up having to add an 11-foot fence between neighborhoods because we did have an issue with people traipsing through yards. So I think it'll be important as you discuss what are those separations going to be, really thinking about, okay, there's a barrier, but is it going to actually be a barrier? And making sure that we are setting up this project for success, and making sure that we're thinking about not just checking the box, but making sure it is actually an impediment for people trespassing through people's property. I think that's going to be important, whether it's at this stage or in SDP. I just think it's obviously something that's very important to the community, and I think an answer to that sooner rather than later of how that will manifest is going to be important. And the other question I had was the geometry of location C and the setbacks. Obviously, I thought it was really important that Commissioner Kessel highlighted the fact that this is building and parking, and I think it's going to be important to understand, particularly for building C, what that geometry is going to look like and what the setbacks are going to be to create separation between the building and the neighbors. And I think that's really one of the biggest pinch points, because especially at this stage, it looks like it's awfully close. Understanding that there will be private driveway and parking, et cetera. But again, the sooner that some of those fears that can be relieved, I think you start to get more buy-in from the public. So just wanted to put that out there as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the applicant for your thoughtfulness and involving the community and the public, and taking their questions and taking them honestly and earnestly to practice. And thank you to the public for being here and getting this involved and coming forward and presenting the issues, some of which I think none of us had thought about before. I live in close proximity to this neighborhood. I'm across on the other side of Diamondback, on the other side of, in the Werther community across from Shady Grove Village. I walk Diamondback and cross it Muddy Branch a lot. I cross right above Suffield across Muddy Branch at the Hawk Lights. I cross there a lot, so I'm aware of traffic throughput that happens there, the speed of traffic that happens through there, and it will be interesting to me as we go into SDP, and thank you, Chairman Bauer, for your comments of getting there if we introduce a light because of capacity, not necessarily the answer. So does it create additional complexities with throughput and wait times and so forth, as has been said before. So I'm glad you're keeping that in mind, and we'll be watchful in terms of how this works out and what it means to that area that exists there today, the issues that are there today, and what it grows into because of capacity. So I look forward to it.
Thank you. Anything from anyone else? Okay. So as the chair of our planning commission alluded to before, our records, this is not the only opportunity that you will have to speak up on this issue. We are about to set our record closings for the planning commission and for the mayor and council on the sketch plan, and then should we advance to a schematic development plan, there will be another period where there's a public hearing and an open record. So if anybody has additional input that they'd like us to consider, you're welcome to set it in during the open record period, and I'll turn it over to John for Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for the Planning Commission, the staff recommends that we hold our record open until 5 p.m. on April 21st, 2023, with an anticipated recommendation to the Mayor and Council on May 3rd, 2023. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, and our recommendation is that the mayor and council hold our record open until 5 p.m. on May 19th, 2023, with anticipated policy discussion on June 20th, 2023. What is the pleasure of the council?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the public, I'd just like to say that if you wanted to submit things in writing, you can either submit it to planning@gaithersburgmd.gov or directly to me. That's KEBY, so K like kite, E like everyone, B like basketball, Y like yellow, at gaithersburgmd.gov. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kirk. Okay. Again, private conversations outside the room, please. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Private conversations outside the room, please. We are still conducting a meeting here. Okay, next item on our agenda is from the mayor and city council, and I would like to start with the birthday girl, our council vice president, Lisa Henderson.
Happy birthday. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to start by congratulating the police awardees and the promotional recipients for today and thank them for their service. Also, congratulations to Karen Lotus and the Emergency Shelter Mobilization Team for their awards and for the work that they do. On March 8th, I attended the Gaithersburg Parent Community Talk with Tony Hoffman. It was an incredible opportunity for parents and for youth to hear the dangers of substance use and opioid use, and Tony Hoffman came to the community with his own experience of once from being an Olympian into serving a prison sentence. Much because of the opioid use and participation that he had undertaken as part of dealing with his own circumstances of depression and emotional issues that he was dealing with. So it was incredible for the youth and for the parents to hear those firsthand experience, and hopefully was helpful to the community. And congratulations to the Parks and Rec and Culture team that put that effort on, and for the Gaithersburg Opioids Fund team that put that money to use to make that happen. It was a great event. Also, March 11th, attended the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which is always a whole lot of fun. It's a day of green fun, and it was this year as well, so I was happy to be there. Later on the 11th, I went with the mayor and Councilmember McNulty and Councilmember Wu. We were able to attend a charity rock concert for the Children's Inn at NIH to raise money for a housing for children with ailments that NIH hospital deals with. And it was easy to participate and support the charity because the music was so incredible. So I had an incredible time, and I look forward to hopefully attending that again next year. On the 15th, attended the annual Youth Summit at Bower Park, and if my numbers are correct, there were about 113 students that were there to hear firsthand accounts from a parent, from Dina Loudon, who unfortunately had lost her son to a tragic opioid death, and helpful again to youth to hear those firsthand accounts of what substance and opioid use will do, and not just that it's harmful, but life-ending. and for those youth to find all the other alternatives to reach out to when they are feeling a certain way, and not turn to opioids, but to turn to other activities, to other people to get assistance. So I appreciate the work that the City of Gaithersburg is doing with the youth and with the parents to get that message out. Also, on the 17th was invited by a group called the Willing 3 Cs, which is the longest serving senior group in the city of Rockville, actually. And a bunch of Rockvillians invited me to speak for their Women's History Month, which I was happy to do. The oldest member there is 92 years old. She's a former Montgomery County Public School teacher, Mrs. McDougal, that was there on hand and climbed the stairs to the stage faster than I did. So I was happy to attend and give a presentation to those women. Also, I want to say congratulations to the new owners of the Vine and Alley in Kentlands, which is a new restaurant and beverage place owned by I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Smondrowski's. I think I got it right. All right. And was happy to attend the opening night. I encourage everyone to, hopefully it's on the menu, to try the shepherd pie. It is delicious. So I had a great time there. Also, on the 18th, attended the Old Town Cafe's first time having live music in their venue. And it was an incredible event for the Old Town area. To have that kind of energy in the east side of the city in Old Town was amazing. I may have been related to the singer who performed that evening, so I may be a little biased. I thought she was fantastic, but I'm excited to see the music, that kind of energy in Old Town. So that was very exciting for me. Also, last week was appointed to the National League of Cities Information Technology and Communications Federal Advocacy Committee. So I'm excited to join that committee and work with other city leaders from other jurisdictions throughout the country on technology and the regulations associated with it throughout our country. Last but not least, I want to say, maybe not last, but happy Women's History Month to everyone, to women and men. Hopefully you're celebrating and congratulating women for all that we do every day. And also definitely last, thanks to everyone for the birthday wishes. It has been an incredible weekend, and I am very happy to end my birthday here with my Gaithersburg family. So thank you all for all the well wishes and cards and flowers. I got lots of flowers, and I love flowers. So thank you all.
Very sweet. Okay, we'll go to Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I don't have a whole lot more to add after that, but I do want to say happy birthday to our Council Vice President, Lisa Henderson, and actually happy birthday to Mr. Mayor, whose birthday was yesterday.
Thank you.
So we have a lot to celebrate here in the city. But I do want to associate myself with just about all of Lisa's comments. I did have the opportunity to attend a number of those events. I want to congratulate all of our newly promoted police officers and our award winners. I want to thank or congratulate the staff to Karen and the emergency shelter team on your recognition this quarter. I want to thank the team that pulled together that talk from Tony Hoffman at Gaithersburg High School, Maureen Herndon and Mary Armbruster and Mara Dunwitty and Laura Mitchell and everybody that I'm missing. It was really impactful. I sat there and listened, and watching the parents in that room, hear Tony's story. For those who don't know, former BMX racer who was having his own mental health challenges, and to the public, you would have thought he was on top of the world, but he wasn't. And he really talks about meeting kids where they are, and he gave advice to parents. And he was very vulnerable, sharing his mental state and what he was thinking and the challenges he had with his parents, and tried to help parents understand, not just say, drugs are bad, but, get them to open up and ways to open up and to communicate, if they're hurting or the things, not just, to deal with avoiding opioids, but what are the reasons that our kids are looking to opioids? What are they trying to numb? And it really hit me as a parent of 2 teens, and I really appreciate the opportunity to get to talk to him, and appreciate Channel 7 and Channel 5 was there, and I got my 7 seconds of fame with Councilmember Henderson. But really, it was something, and not only was he there for that event, but he took the time to go to a number of our local schools here in Gaithersburg and talk to the kids at the high school level, at the middle school level, and they really connected. I'm now following him on Instagram and just seeing the work that he's done around the country. So I definitely recommend, if you're having issues, he will respond to you. So look for him, Tony Hoffman, on Instagram or Twitter. And programs like that are being funded through our funds that are coming through the National Opioid Settlement Fund. As a reminder, Gaithersburg is going to be receiving over nearly $800,000 over the next 18 years. And the goal is to create, programs like this for education and prevention and treatment. So kudos to everybody that helped pull that together. St. Patrick's Parade, as always, was a blast. It was a lot colder this year than it was the year before. I was looking back through my Facebook memories, and I was wearing a polo last year, and I was definitely wearing more than a polo this year. And the crowds, I think, it was a good crowd, but it was definitely about half of what we had the year before. I think the wind and the cold kind of kept folks home. But I hope everybody had a safe and enjoyable St. Patrick's Parade and St. Patrick's Day. And finally, I want to send our best wishes to Delegate Carol Resnick from District 39, who was just appointed the Assistant Secretary for Interdepartmental Data Integration at the Department of Human Services. Delegate Resnick has served the community for over 15 years, and just recently with the redistricting after the census, came to represent several neighborhoods in Gaithersburg, including mine. And I've had the opportunity to get to know him over the past year. And we're certainly sorry to lose him as a voice in the legislature for Gaithersburg. But I want to say thank you and best of luck in your continued service to all of us here in the state of Maryland. And we wish him the best of luck. And that'll be all for me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. We'll go to Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gosh, so much has already been covered. But let me start by saying happy spring, everyone. And here's hoping the weather continues to turn in a good direction. I want to echo all the birthday wishes to our colleagues, Council Vice President Henderson, Mayor Ashman. It was a pleasure to get to celebrate with both of you a little bit on Saturday night at the Old Town Cafe gathering. And as the Council Vice President said, it was a wonderful opportunity to see one of our local businesses contributing to the path to the ongoing revitalization of our Old Town Center, and hope that continues. And I think we can look forward to hopefully some additional economic revitalization and positive activity there in the days, months, and years ahead. It was wonderful to experience the talent, the incredible talent of the Council Vice President's sister, who was performing live at Old Town Cafe that night, and to get to spend some quality time with your family. But I have to say the absolute highlight of the evening was hanging out with your brother, who was convinced that the mayor was my dad.
Thank you for bringing that up.
I had to bring that up. And a very happy birthday to you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you just made it so much happier.
Yeah, so had to bring that up. Really made my night. But it's already been mentioned that we've had some wonderful events over the last couple of weeks. I will associate myself with those comments. I attended the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I attended the Youth Summit on opioid awareness, which was really an incredible event because that was a day that kids in middle and high school at MCPS had a half day, and many of them otherwise wouldn't have had any activities to go to, and their parents may well have been working, and so it was an opportunity for our youth engagement staff and volunteers at the city to work together with the community volunteers who ran that event and our police department and the county police department to host a really important opportunity for those students to gather, hear important stories, and learn, and have a place to go to do something productive on a weekday afternoon when they didn't have school. I was particularly impressed by the instantaneous translation of everything at that summit from English to Spanish to make sure that we were really reaching all the kids in the room. I thought that was great. Also attended the celebratory, I guess, grand reopening of Vine Alley on March 17th, and wish the owners and our friends good luck. I'm sure we'll be visiting them again. On March 16th, this hasn't been mentioned yet, I don't think. On March 16th, a few of us attended the annual Maryland Municipal League Montgomery County Chapter joint meeting with the County Council. This was our first of those annual joint meetings with the new, larger County Council, with several new members of the County Council. And it was a good opportunity for us to spend some quality time with them, asking some tough questions and getting some interesting answers on issues ranging from taxes to public schools to public safety to affordable housing and more. And we continue to work on building and maintaining our relationships with our counterparts of the county to work on those priorities for the benefit of the folks here in Gaithersburg as well. For those who are going to be observing Ramadan, which is about to start, I want to wish you a Ramadan Mubarak. I also want to echo Jim's comments congratulating Delegate Resnick. He and I have been good friends for almost 20 years now. It's sort of weird to imagine the General Assembly without him. He's been a great friend to the city of Gaithersburg over the years, championing legislation for our benefit, and we wish him well, and we'll continue to follow his career as he moves into the executive branch. And I also wanted to mention that the superintendent of Montgomery County Public Schools is going to be participating in the second community conversation in a series on March 23rd, later this week, about the rise in anti-Semitism and how to address anti-Semitism in the public schools. And that is sponsored and organized by the Jewish Community Relations Council, and it's going to be held at Congregation Har Shalom. I think it requires advanced registration, but anybody's welcome to attend. So I think that's a really important conversation at this time that we need to continue to have, and I'm glad that the superintendent is making sure that she participates in those important community conversations. And then finally, I want to echo all the well-deserved congratulations to all of the officers who were honored and promoted tonight, and to their families, and also to all of our quarterly staff award winners for their excellent service. All deserve tremendous recognition. I'm glad we're able to recognize them all tonight.
Thank you, Ryan. We'll go to Neil.
All right, so thank you, Mayor. And I would like to also add my congratulations to the police officers and the staff people who were honored and promoted today. They're all doing wonderful work, and everything was well-deserved. So I also attended the St. Patty's Day Parade and also found it to be chillier than I would like it to be. Although I remember about 6 or 7 years ago, I brought my son, and he was so cold that he was actually hating me that day, and he's not usually like that. So I was glad it wasn't quite that nippy, but it was still a little challenging. But good time was had by all. Some of the other events I attended, I had the pleasure of speaking to a group of folks at Asbury Methodist on Friday. Much of the conversation revolved around Lake Forest Mall. I do want to share with staff that there is still some significant concern over the amount of green space, and they kept pointing to the lake on the other side of Russell that is being counted as green space, but they don't really see it as such. So I think we need to I'd like to have some response to bring back to them about what we're doing to make sure there's sufficient green space for the new residents of the proposed shopping and residential center there. Aside from that, I attended several board meetings. The Transportation Planning Board, which is beginning the 2-year process of developing the next 25-year plan. The last plan was called Visualize 2045, so the next one will be Visualize 2050. They're actually taking a zero-based approach to this, looking at every project that's in the long-range plan for all the departments of transportation at the various states and the district, and making sure that each one is justified on its own merits and on the basis of its effectiveness in transportation for the whole region. So that'll be a very interesting process for those of us who like to dive into the details of transportation. Also attended a Kentlands Foundation board meeting, and I'm very impressed by the number of events and organizations that are under that umbrella, including the newest one, which is a writers group that has now been adopted by the foundation, Writers Workshop Group. Also attended the monthly meeting of the G-Park Alliance for Parks, and volunteered my services with my son to go out and map the Muddy Branch Trail for the GIS maps that the city is putting together for all the trails within the city. It's one of my favorite trails, so I want to make sure that everybody knows how to find it and what's there. I think that'll, I also wanted to mention the MML meeting with the county council. This is the first time we've met with them in person in some years, thanks to our friend COVID. And I thought that the dialogue was really solid this year. And at least with several of the new council members, I'm very impressed with what they're bringing to the party, particularly the ones from the Up County. I think we've got a really strong group of folks that we can work with to make things better county-wide as we go forward. So congratulations to the new group, and I'm looking forward to great things. Don't let me down. Thanks.
All right, thank you. We'll go to Rob.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. Congratulations to everybody. Ramadan Mubarak. Happy Nowruz. I've got an announcement. Notice the general public is hereby given to the mayor and city council plans to conduct a council and the community's meeting on Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023, 7 p.m. at Gaithersburg High School, 101 Education Boulevard, Gaithersburg, Maryland. The meeting is to be held for residents on Maryland 355. On 355 or abutting 355? Abutting? Okay. I don't think anybody likes who lives on Maryland 355.
Yeah, say a buddy.
South of Odenhall Avenue and north of East Deer Park Drive, including neighborhoods Asbury, Chestnut, Meme, Historic Area, Deer Park, Russell Brooks, and Walker Historic Area. Condominiums, Russell Avenue and Summit Crossing. Apartments, Brooks Manor, Gaithers House, Cedar Courts, Dalamar, Diamond Station, Forest Oak Towers, Free State, Lakeside, Lanigan, Montgomery Park, The Oaks at Old Town, Park Station, Whetstone, Young, 214 Brooks Avenue, 425 North Frederick Avenue, and 439 North Frederick Avenue. Please contact Neighborhood Services Division Chief Kevin Roman at kevin.roman@gaithersburgmd.gov or 240-805-1042 for more information or if accessibility accommodations are needed.
Thank you, Rob. Anything else? We're good.
No, do I have to do upcoming sessions or is that something?
No, I'll do that.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Nothing else, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I thank everyone for giving a very comprehensive list of every single thing that's happened in this community. I was at most, if not all, of these things, and just associate myself with those remarks. Couple other little notes. Councilmember McNulty and I appeared at Diamond Elementary School a couple weeks ago, and the day before that, I did participate in reading night at Rachel Carson Elementary School. And I want to remind everyone that the book festival is coming up on May 20th. It's going to be fantastic. All information at GaithersburgBookFestival.org. It will be at Boer Park, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free to attend and free to park. And oh, look, we got our nice slide up. Very happy about that. So please check it out. There's over 120 authors listed on the website now. I guarantee you're going to find some topic that you're interested in. Thank you all very much. And next we're going to move on to From the City Manager. Oh, wait, before I do that, let me do upcoming sessions. We will have a work session on Monday, March 27th to receive an update on the city's parking permit program. It will be just like this meeting, hybrid. You can attend in person, or you could participate on Zoom. The next regular meeting of the Mayor and Council will be on Monday, April 3rd, and same thing. You can participate in person or on Zoom. And Tanisha.
I have nothing to report this evening, Your Honor. I will, though, be remiss if I don't wish 2 of my favorite 6 bosses a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Which 2?
Well done. Is it Ryan's dad?
Way to own it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, economic development update. Tom Lonergan, Senior.
Very good. Good evening. Just one item for you tonight. Long vacant office building at 200 Professional Drive, recently sold. I thought I'd mention it. Plagued by fire and water damage, deteriorating system and code violations. Previous redevelopment strategies crafted by the owners, brokers, and buyers have included converting the existing building to medical office condominiums. One potential buyer planned for demolition, seeing more value in its land. It's a great location adjacent to the Watkins Mill interchange and surrounded by biotech companies. Last month's sale of the property for $5.7 million is the first step towards redevelopment. MagBio Genomics, currently at 944 Clopper, will move into half of the 63,000 square foot building after renovations. The company develops and sells magnetic bead-based kits for acid isolation and purification, as well as products that offer room temperature stability of biosamples. The remainder of the building will be available for lease. Staff is coordinating an incentive package with our state and county partners. The company has applied for the city's Economic Development Toolbox grant to offset tenant improvement costs. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to move on to ordinances, resolutions, and regulations. Brian Fields from our Public Works Department has anticipated I'm calling him up.
Yes, good evening. Brian Fields, Engineering Services Division Chief. I have just a very brief overview of this item. It's a resolution to authorize the city manager to amend the city's current contract with Only Masonry Corporation for roadway resurfacing to provide a one-time CPI adjustment to the contract unit prices in the amount of 6.5%. Only's contract does currently provide for annual adjustments based on the Consumer Price Index. However, that is capped at a maximum of 3%. The local construction industry over the past year has experienced price increases for items such as fuel, materials, equipment, and labor that often significantly exceed 3%. These have impacted Only's business in several ways, including their ability to obtain materials at the contract unit prices, as well as being able to find subcontractors willing to do the work. It's important to note that Only has indicated that they likely would not be able to continue performing work under this contract without some type of unit price adjustment. After review and negotiation, a one-time CPI unit price adjustment reflecting the actual CPI annual increase for last year of 6.5% is recommended, with no change in the authorized total contract amount. This one-time adjustment would be in place of that 3% cap that I mentioned. It's not in addition to that. So instead of 3, they just get the 6.5. Staff does not anticipate this amendment will significantly change the planned program for street resurfacing or other projects. Again, the total contract amount does not change. However, the slightly higher unit prices will slightly reduce the amount of work that could be performed. That concludes my presentation. I'd be glad to take any questions.
Any questions?
I just want to make an observation, if I may,
Yep,
Mr. Mayor.
please.
I'm going to vote for this, and I sympathize with the contractor, and I acknowledge this is sort of an extreme and unusual situation, and what we don't want to have is a contractor who's not capable of performing because of the extreme nature of the inflationary pressures and supply chain pressures here. I just want to say, sort of for the record, for what it's worth, I have some philosophical queasiness with the general idea of going back and changing the terms of a contract when sophisticated parties come to the table, they negotiate a contract, they understand that there are unforeseen externalities that can occur during the term of the contract, and they assume upon themselves that risk. That is the nature of a contract. And so in this particular instance, I think there's justification, but I want us to be very careful not to go down the slippery slope of saying, one of our contractors is having a rough time, let's just agree unilaterally to change the price that we negotiated and that they signed. So I just want to put that out there, food for thought, but I will support this particular resolution.
Thank you for saying that. I agree with that entirely. Any other, Jim?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I want to associate myself with those comments, and I want to ask about the rest of the contract, because what I also don't want to get into is a situation where, because inflation is persistent, that we're in the same situation next year. And while we would still have the ability to do 3% under the contract, could we be in the same situation 12 months from now?
This would be for the third and final year of the contract, so we'd be putting the contract out to bid. That did factor into our recommendation tonight, that we felt like if we put it out to bid today, we would likely see prices in excess of 6.5% higher.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Rob? I see you leaning forward. I figured you wanted to speak.
Sure. The second year, was there a CPI adjustment?
Yes, that was a 3% cap.
Okay, would someone like to move the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. From the city attorney, Frank.
I don't have anything tonight.
Oh, come on, this was your chance, Frank.
It is my big opportunity. Lynn is just out this week, enjoying a vacation. Hopefully she's enjoying it.
Hopefully so.
Yeah, and we'll be back next week.
Okay, thank you. Anything from any other staff? Not seeing anything? Okay. Well, as we mentioned, we have our work session next week to talk about the city's parking permit program, and then the next regular meeting of the Mayor and Council will be on Monday, April 3rd. Until next time, let's do great things, Gaithersburg. We are adjourned.